It's interesting you bring up Nirvana. I'm finding more and more so now that like the stigma they probably had 10 years ago of it just being very simple and what's the big deal.
Yeah.
That's starting to go away, thankfully.
Yeah.
Because you have people like Rick Beato always breaking down their songs, and people will just hear 4 chords in their songs. It's like, okay, what are those 4 chords though? Okay? Because a lot of times they'll borrow chords from like a different key or something.
Yeah. I like...
Just look at the chord progression for In Bloom.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
No.
It's all power chords too, so it's just...
And it sounds really cool.
It's a really good song, yeah.
And then the bass line in that song.
Yep, also really, really cool.
Yeah, look at the bass line in that. Like, that's not a traditional bass line.
There's stuff that shouldn't work in that bass line for sure.
But I cut you off before. What were you going to say?
Oh, you're good. I was just going to say, I with just the artists that I like, I see a pattern of just like... I like people who are really good at what they do, but they kind of learned it in a non-traditional track. You know, that's not me. I had a pretty traditional track, honestly, but
Right.
I kind of I admire that. So, like, say for like, you know, I think Kurt is one of the most talented songwriters. Like, you know, I don't know about in history, but he's pretty good.
Yeah.
But his the way he writes music is so like he just did it.
Right.
He just went for it. There is no like niceness to how he wrote it, but it's still like either like really kind of sludgy or it's like beautiful. And
Yeah.
that's really cool that he was able to create that. And that's also like, you know, Les, we talked about Les earlier. Les is one of my favorite bassists because he's like way better than everybody, and he's also like, if you ask him about bass playing, he's kind of like, you know, I don't know, just go,
Yeah.
you know, he's not super pragmatic about how he does it. He's better than everybody, but he's also a fucking nutcase.
Right.
It's just
And that's the
doing his thing.
And that's the interesting thing too. It's how many players you think when you hear their music that they must know all the harmony and theory behind it, and sometimes yes.
Yeah.
Like you'll have, you know, Dream Theater, they know all the harmony and the theory behind what
Sure.
they're doing. But then you go to the guys in Rush, yeah, they understand what they are doing, but like they can't name you every single chord they're using.
Right.
And they've said this in interviews. You know, they weren't necessarily theory people,
Yeah.
but they intuitively know their instrument and they listen to their inner ear, and they have a very good inner ear, and they're able to do all this creative stuff on there.
Yeah, definitely.
And the other thing too, and another great thing about Nirvana as well, I recently rewatched MTV Unplugged.
Oh yeah.
And I watched the there's a 10-minute documentary on how that thing went down, and you see this interviewer from MTV interviewing people that are lined up to get inside, asking how do you think this is going to translate into an acoustic set. And the thing about it is that, forgetting what everyone else in there said, all the songs translated so well acoustically.
Yeah.
And you could hear even more, just like stripped down bare bones, what's going on in there.
Yep.
And those chord progressions that are just, again, they're not adhering to, I mean, they're adhering to a key, but they're borrowing so many chords that don't belong.
Yep.
And it just sounds so good. It doesn't sound like a mess, because sometimes when you just borrow random chords, it can sound like a mess, but
Sure.
with them it doesn't.
No, it's, yeah, somehow they're able to, I don't know. That's the secret sauce of songwriting. It's bottled, but you can't replicate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. They had something going on.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the chord progression for On a Plane.
On a Plane, yeah, that's another really weird one.
There's a lot of whole step movement in their progressions.
Yep, definitely. There's like Big Long Now, like that song makes no sense.
Right.
What songs have weird chord progressions? There's a lot. Like Aneurysm's just
Yes.
the tremolo picking all the way up and then goes to like a totally different, you know, goes up a fourth for no reason.
Exactly. I had my students perform that. It was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like kids playing Aneurysm, that'd be so sick.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Man, yeah. I mean, About a Girl also. That's
Yes.
another one. Weird, very strange.
Right.
It just has that like, whatever, the 7 chord, like that's not the key of the song, but it acts as like a 1.
Yeah.
Man's a genius.
Yeah, and and not only that, listen to the deeper cuts on Incesticide.
Yeah.
I mean, there's now again, some of those songs people have heard before because they were on it live at Reading and whatever else. But then you listen to the deeper cuts on there that you don't hear on live records, and it's like he's really exploring where else to take stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. You find out, it makes you wonder if they had done another album, what would it have sounded like?
Yeah, I know. I'm so curious. Like,
if they had done another album after the MTV Unplugged show, I mean, it would have sounded probably something like that.
Yeah, like people kind of, you can always speculate. There are people that there's one dude that on YouTube, he has like a speculative like fourth Nirvana album that he like cobbled together. I don't know how. I haven't like really given it a really solid listen, but I'd be curious to check that out again. Like people always think about what it could sound like. There are, have you listened to Kurt Cobain's, what is it, Montage of Heck?
I haven't.
Okay, yeah, so it's like a lot of just home record. It's like a tape recorder and him with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And there are like just inklings of demos that you hear him do.
Yeah.
There's one I really like called Burn the Rain. And it's just like 30 seconds of like a verse and like going into a chorus, and he gets a phone call.
Oh, wow.
And you hear him take the, like, no, she's at work. Like,
oh, you showed me that.
Did I show you that?
Yeah. Now I remember.
So there are like, I don't know what the time period is of any of those recordings, but there are ideas of what direction he was going in for the next thing he was writing.
Yeah.
Where he might have gone.